You will say yes to something huge today, and it's going to start with something tiny you barely noticed agreeing to. You've signed a petition on the street, and then somehow ended up donating money to that same cause a month later. You've said sure, just a quick call to a coworker, and ended up managing their entire project for the next 6 months. You've clicked start your free trial, and without ever really deciding to, you're still paying for it 2 years later, wondering how it happened. You've let a friend borrow $20 once, and now you're the person they call whenever they are short on rent. That slow slide from small ask to big commitment has a name: the foot-in-the-door technique, identified by psychologists Jonathan Freedman and Scott Fraser in 1966. Freedman and Fraser ran a study in Palo Alto, California, that became a classic in social psychology. Researchers went door to door asking homeowners to do something almost meaninglessly small: sign a petition supporting safe driving, or put a tiny 3-inch sign in their window that said, "Be a safe driver." Almost everyone said yes. It cost them nothing, took 10 seconds, and felt like basic decency. 2 weeks later, a completely different researcher, someone the homeowners had never met, came back to the same houses and asked something absurd. Would they let a giant, ugly, drive carefully billboard be installed on their front lawn, blocking their view and tanking their curb appeal for weeks? Among homeowners who'd never been approached before, only about 17% agreed to that. But among those who'd said yes to the tiny sign 2 weeks earlier, roughly 76% agreed to the giant billboard. Same neighborhood, same absurd request, same researchers running the same script. The only difference in the entire experiment was one small yes sitting in their history. Think about that gap for a second. 17% versus 76%, created entirely by a 3-inch paper sign nobody even remembers agreeing to. Have you ever noticed how once you've helped someone once, you feel almost obligated to keep helping, even as the ask quietly gets bigger and bigger each time? Now flip the angle from strangers on a doorstep to something more personal and emotional, giving to charity. In 1974, researchers Patricia Pliner, Harvey Hart, Norman Cole, and David Sari tested this in Toronto around the Canadian Cancer Society's annual donation drives. The day before volunteers went door to door asking for money, some residents in the test group were approached first with a tiny, purely symbolic request. Would they wear a small lapel pin to show support for cancer research? It cost nothing, took 2 seconds, and almost everyone said yes without a second thought. The next day, when the actual donation request came from a completely different volunteer, people who'd worn the pin gave at almost double the rate of those who hadn't been asked about the pin at all, even though wearing a pin and handing over cash have nothing functionally to do with each other. The pin itself did nothing. What it did was quietly shift how people saw themselves. Not someone who happened to wear a pin yesterday, but someone who supports this cause, full stop, as an identity. Have you ever agreed to something small and social? Wear this shirt, share this post, join this group chat, retweet this cause, and then found it strangely hard to say no to whatever came next from the same people? Here's what's actually happening in your head in both of those situations. Psychologists call the underlying mechanism self-perception theory. The idea that you don't just have fixed beliefs that drive your behavior from the inside out. You also watch your own behavior from the outside, like a stranger would, and use it as evidence for who you are. The moment you sign that petition or wear that pin, your brain quietly files away a new data point. I'm the kind of person who does this. Then, when a bigger, related request shows up days or weeks later, saying no would mean directly contradicting that self-image you just built, and your brain hates that contradiction more than it hates the actual cost of complying with the bigger ask. For most of human history, this was a genuinely smart, efficient shortcut. In small tribes of a few dozen or a few hundred people, where your survival depended entirely on being seen as reliable and cooperative by everyone around you, staying consistent with your past behavior signaled trustworthiness to the whole group watching. People who flip-flopped constantly, who helped once and refused the next time, got quietly excluded from alliances, trade, and protection when things got dangerous. Consistency wasn't just a personality trait back then. It was social currency you couldn't afford to spend carelessly. The problem is that this same ancient wiring doesn't know the difference between a neighbor, genuinely testing your community spirit, and a marketer, a manipulative partner, or a coworker deliberately engineering your compliance, one small, harmless-looking favor at a time. So here's the actual move you can use in real time before you say yes to the next escalation. When someone asks you for something noticeably bigger than what you originally agreed to, stop for 2 seconds and ask yourself one specific question. If this exact request were the very first thing this person had ever asked me with zero history between us, would I still say yes? Not, have I already said yes to smaller stuff, so I guess I'm locked in. But strip the history away completely and judge this one request purely on its own weight, right now, as if you just met. That 2-second gut check breaks the chain self-perception is quietly trying to build in the background, because it forces you to evaluate the actual cost of this specific ask instead of your accumulated, fuzzy sense of obligation. You're allowed to have said yes yesterday and no today. Those are 2 separate decisions, not one long contract. Consistency with a stranger's slowly escalating agenda was never actually the value worth protecting. Consistency with your own judgment, moment to moment, is. So think back, was there a moment recently where a small yes turned into a much bigger commitment before you even realized what was happening? Comment YES below and tell me exactly where it started.